opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the hosts and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio or its employees or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
Welcome to Outdoors People with me, C.W. Getz, and her, Maya Marzaki. Good evening. It's Wednesday, March 20th, 2024. Hey, we've got a 42 degree that is 42 degree Fahrenheit, 5 degrees Celsius temperature here in north central Illinois, Chicagoland, kind of suburbs like. A little chilly. You know, we had some really nice like 70s, and I think we got close to 80 a couple of times here, and now we're down to 42. It feels chilly. I have to tell you, it's always windy here now. So springtime wind. Maya is on safari this week somewhere in Brazil. She told me, but I forgot, so I apologize. But hiya, Maya, if you're able to watch out there right now. I doubt that you are, but just in case. Juan, you're going to be my sidekick tonight here. What temperature you have down there in a lovely state of Florida?
Well, as of right now, we are at 76, but 2 days ago, we had pretty much the coldest day of the year.
Oh. Ooh,
yeah,
nice.
We went down to a whole 69 degrees. Can you believe that?
Well, you know, I think that you're probably in the winter coat, but 69 degrees in Florida, you're like those people in Brazil right now. It dips below 80. They're like, I'm cold, man. I get it. I totally get it. But it's only the second day of spring, so we can't really be bitching too much. It's still pretty nice. I know April. When I was operating a snowplow, I remember being out there in April in blizzard, and it happens, you know. So let's just hope that doesn't happen this year. Anyway, well, let's meet tonight's guest. St. Louis native, professional freefall cinematographer and aerial stunt coordinator Joe Jennings holds numerous first-place titles as a competitive camera flyer, including World Skysurfing Championships, Boards Over Switzerland, and ESPN, and more. Joe's work has appeared in feature films like Charlie's Angels, Airforce One, Point Break, Jackass Forever, and others. His work can also be seen in television shows like MTV Sports, Dateline NBC, Baywatch, Blossom, McGyver, and National Geographic Adventure, to name a few. And the list of commercials which Joe's work has been featured in is massive. The list includes Pepsi, Lexus, Ford, Shell, Chevy, Pontiac, Samsung, Verizon, Dr. Pepper, Budweiser, Hewlett Packard, Firestone, Blue Cross Blue Shield, Honda, Wrigley's Gum, Sony, Visa, Dominos, Bud Light, Apple, and on and on.
They have waited a long time for this moment. The defending world champions, the favorites in our competition, Rob Harris and Joe Jennings of the United States, to get their competition underway.
You're going to see a big difference here, not only in the sky surfing, but in the camera flying as well. Joe Jennings does this for a living, and he's absolutely dead on holding the angles.
And you may find yourself in a beautiful house with a beautiful wife, and you may ask yourself, well, how did I get here? Letting the days go by, let the water hold me down. Letting the days go by, water flowing underground.
good jump.
And with that, welcome to the show, Joe. How are
PW.
you doing?
Hello, good to be here.
Hey, I tell you what an amazing video. And I'm going to ask you this. What I should know this. Where are you coming to us live from this evening?
I'm in Los Angeles now.
Okay, so I didn't know that. I didn't know that. That would not have been my first guess. Okay.
This is where I live. You know, I it's kind of the last place I expected to live. Just a big city. You know, just the whole environment was not. You know, I lived up in Santa Cruz, and I loved that kind of nature.
Yeah.
But this is where the industry is, and you know.
Yeah. Well, absolutely.
To it.
Well, and you know what? Here's the thing. All the action's in California, so it would be natural for you to be there, and that's where everything is happening. I would assume, anyway, right?
Right.
Yeah,
You know, you were talking about your co-host being over in Brazil.
Yeah.
And it brought to mind a project that I did there not too long ago. It was a couple of years ago, where we went to the middle of the Amazon jungle. Took about 27 hours of flying and 24 hours on a boat. We ended up in the middle of the jungle, and we were filming a project. And I got my first bout of COVID and just knocked me entirely on my back. And I basically had to just sleep through everything until it was time to jump. And then I would just rouse myself up, go film, and go back to bed. And
oh, jeez.
Wild project.
You know, I was just thinking, watching that video, when you have a bad day, I wonder what that looks like. Because that's some pretty serious stuff. I mean, you're jumping out of airplanes, you're filming things, and I can imagine when something goes wrong, it's not just a little thing. It's usually a big thing. Am I right or no?
Yeah, you know, I mean, we joke around often when we put together a stunt. You know, one of the things we say is, what could possibly go wrong? And the fact is, a lot can go wrong.
Yeah.
A bad day might be as simple as a parachute opening, a very fast parachute opening when you have a lot of weight on your head with the cameras and everything. And that can hurt.
Yeah.
It could also be, I've been in, I was in an airplane that crashed into trees. We lost an engine on takeoff and ended up in trees, and that was terrifying. So that wasn't a good day. And then another time I was on a project, we were actually filming for a show called Ripley's Believe It or Not. And
I remember that show. Yeah.
The helicopter flew straight into wires.
Oh, wow.
And it just tore the helicopter entirely apart from front to back. And
wow.
we walked away from it.
You are very, very fortunate that, my gosh, you got some stories. I'm sure you've got, and I'm sure that's just the tip of the iceberg, man. Let me ask you, Joe, what came first, the chicken or the egg? Were you a skydiver first, or were you a cinematographer first? And then at what point did you begin combine the two?
I think, camera work in general and cinematography that's always been in my life. My father was a great cameraman. He filmed in nature. He was a still photographer, but I used to hike out in the woods with him, and he would go find things and photograph them, and had his photographs featured in magazines and on the Missouri Botanical Gardens calendars. That was all of his photos, and I believe it's the largest botanical garden in the U.S.
Yeah.
Beautiful place. Anyway, when I first picked up a camera, I think it was in high school, and in the late 70s, I picked one up, and it was an old video camera, and I remember holding it, and there was a big deck attached to it, and and I was playing around with it, and something about it just felt like, man, I really like this. This is
cool piece of fun right there, man. Tools.
Yeah. And then, when I got into skydiving, already, I was, pretty much an avid cameraman. when I was skydiving, you know, I really wanted to share the experience. And before I even graduated off student status, I used to take a little cassette tape recorder and tape it to my wrist and just scream into it so that I could like relive.
Oh, wow.
It's a free fall. So it was almost a natural progression that when I went further into skydiving and when I was qualified to carry cameras, I carried them as soon as I possibly could.
Well, so how has your rig changed over the years? I mean, you know, and one of those, which I would, you know, I can easily imagine this, but nice big red camera. You know, I'm sure you didn't start with that, but when you started, you were in what kind of gear, and how's that changed?
Yeah. So when I started flying camera, I was lucky enough that the 8mm cameras were beginning to become a thing, and they were smaller than the VHS cameras that people were carrying. You know, those were big, and then 8mm kind of shrunk it up. They were still a little bit big, but it was manageable.
Yeah.
So that was my first camera, and then, you know, I would jump with video and still photographs to film people doing their first jumps as tandems and whatnot. And so that was, you know, that was my early rig. And then as I got more into shooting film, I bumped up to 16mm, a 16mm camera, which is not too much bigger, but heavier. You know, it was a more solid piece of gear. And I got used to that. And then pretty soon, as opportunities began to open up, I needed to start jumping with 35mm, which was much bigger, much heavier. And 35mm film, though, was the standard for filming commercials and TV and motion pictures and things like that. So it was a big camera, big helmet with video assist, and, you know, just a very heavy, complicated system.
Serious stuff.
Yeah, I mean, you know, and I considered myself a film purist. Like I expected I'd be jumping film cameras for my entire career, but then of course, you know, the digital cinema just became so good. It was, it was so much more affordable and reliable, and so the size and complexity of my helmet has actually come down a little bit since.
Really? Really? Yeah. So things are actually a lot smaller than what they really were at one time. And
yeah. No, it's amazing. I mean, you know, GoPros used to tick me off, you know, because they're so good.
I wondered if you were like, you've ever used a GoPros in anything you've done. Have you done that? Or?
I mean, I love them. I mean, it's an amazing camera. I use them for all kinds of things. I mean, they don't work for you know, really high-end stuff. You need the raw digital cinema files so that the colors can all be mixed to kind of match into whatever you're making. But GoPros are, holy smokes.
Yeah, that's so cool.
Great.
Now, let me ask you, we'll shift gears here a little bit. Where are some of the places that your work has taken you, and which of those places would you call your favorite?
So my career has taken me to pretty much every continent on the planet.
What I thought.
Yeah.
Everywhere.
Yeah. A lot of traveling, you know, wonderful, and some really, really beautiful places. I haven't been, though, to the Arctic Circle, which I believe is a continent. So I haven't been there. But yeah.
Do you like the cold stuff, or do you like the warm stuff? Which would be your favorite? I mean, would you say, I really like the cold stuff because, man, the scenery is just killer? Or do you like the nice tropical, you know, sort of thing?
You know, when we're in the air, I like the tropical.
Yeah,
you know,
of course.
It's green, it's gorgeous, it's beautiful. You know, the problem is when you're on the ground, you're just sweltering. But you get the best clouds in the world when you're, you know, you go to a place like Florida in the summer, for example. You know, the ground is entirely wet, and in the afternoon, almost invariably, you get these cumulus clouds that just build all the way up to 15, 20,000 feet or higher. And you can go up and fly wingsuits and just kind of zip around them, you know. And
Oh,
so,
wow. Yeah.
I mean, the sky there is extraordinary and it's beautiful. But really, my favorite place of all places, believe it or not, is Arizona.
Oh, wow. Really?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
why
And you
is
would
that?
think, you know, yeah, why? I mean, it's brown, it's hot, it's, you know,
Yeah.
but in Arizona, we're able to. There are drop test areas where you can push objects out of an airplane and legally, you know, crash it into the ground.
Because I saw some of that. It's like,
Yeah,
wow, what the hell? Yeah.
yeah. And so, you know, that's the kind of thing that to this day, and a big part of why I'm still in this racket is, you know, because I really love taking different objects like a car, for example, right? How can we make this thing fall wheels to earth? How fast does it need to leave the airplane? And how do we set up the balance and the weight and
Wow.
the shape of the bottom of the car to get it to literally stay wheels to earth with people riding it, that kind of thing. I mean, that's one out of many objects. But in
Yeah.
order to test those things, even if it's a laptop, if you're going to let it crash into the ground at 150 miles an hour, you need to do that in the middle of nowhere.
There's a lot of math going on there, Joe. I mean, my God. Oh, wow.
You know, and I
Uh,
don't consider myself, you know, I don't consider myself very technical. A lot of it is kind of intuitive, but I rely heavily on people who, uh, you know, they're wired for that.
yeah.
They can crunch the numbers and they help me out a lot.
Tell us about your competition skydiving, that is, and maybe the effect it's had on your career.
I think competition skydiving is a big part of why I'm still here. You
Yeah.
know, of why I'm still um, skydiving overall. I was burnt out on filming just skydiving. I mean, it just became too easy. You could just pull up to a target and film it,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
And then I met the guy who became my partner and Skysurf World Champion, a guy named Rob Harris, and he invited me to film him doing freestyle. And I had heard that freestyle was very difficult because it zips all over the sky, you know.
Oh, wow.
And as a camera flyer, you have to chase after it. And my first jump chasing after him doing freestyle was, you know, I really felt like a human jet. Like I was flying my body harder than I had ever flown it before. And so, you know, I became addicted to that. And then as we trained and got better and better at sky surfing, and me as a camera flyer being able to fly more dynamically and everything, and then winning some championships, including, you know, the X Games in '95, it just
Yeah.
began to open doors into Hollywood. So it's almost like one thing led to another, and then the opportunities kind of came because we were prepared to take them on.
Yeah. Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah,
What's the most unusual project you've been involved with?
man, you know, I thought about that. I have been in a lot of them.
I'm just going to say there's a lot. I've already seen some unusual things. I'm like, holy smokes. But yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's some things we just, you know, I mean, all kinds of requests come across the table, and we can't do all of them.
Sure.
Somebody wanted me to run a horse out of the back of an airplane. You know,
A horse?
yeah. And the owner of the parachute
Oh.
center where, you know, I was skydiving at the time and where we were doing those kinds of things, you know, they are, you know, they love horses, they love animals, and
Yeah.
I just knew, okay, well, this is never going to happen.
How is that
You
going
know,
to work? I mean, yeah, when he lands, and how is the horse going to never mind. Yeah.
it just, you know, there were just so many variables, and a horse can't consent, you know. Okay, yeah, I want to
I'm in.
jump
Yeah.
out of the plane, right? You know, a horse can't consent, and it's like,
Yeah.
without the horse's consent, we're not going to drive it out of an air.
Yeah.
out of
The
an airplane.
Humane Society would be down there in no time, wouldn't they? Yeah. Oh, my
Yeah.
God. Yeah.
But I mean, I've done a lot of unusual stuff. You know, on one commercial, we had a laptop that was basically set up to save its own, to save itself. And the idea was to show that it could boot up and trigger. At the time, there was a sliding DVD door that would come in and out, and it could boot up and trigger the door and open its own little small parachute before it hit the ground. And that was a pretty cool, it was a pretty cool project. We had to figure out how to make a laptop fall and then how to save itself.
That's bizarre. Hey, so, okay, then and now. Here's a then and now question for you. Has age at any point had any effect on your specific type of work?
I can say this, like a couple of things, like having kids, before I had kids, the risk was worth it. Like we would do things on the cutting edge and there were a lot of unanswered questions. We would do new things that nobody else had done. And the risk, was worth it,
Yeah.
And then after having kids, I felt myself throttling back a bit. Like
The whole perspective changes there when you have kids, doesn't it?
Right, it does, big time. It's something that was fun before becomes like unpleasant. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so, then it became a matter of learning how to stay within the parameters of my abilities and my understanding of the equipment and whatnot. So it was kind of like pulling back a little bit. And now as I'm getting older, I expected, it's a very athletic kind of a pursuit, and your body does take a beating.
Yeah, I'm sure.
You don't expect to last very long,
Yeah. I kind of wondered that. Like, I'm going to ask you, how old are you right now?
I'm 61.
61. Okay. So I'm going to be 60 here next month. And,
look at all that hair you have.
Oh
Holy
my gosh.
smokes.
No, that stuff's falling out. This is what do you call little planting, they put that on before the shot.
Oh, nice. Well done. Good crop.
Honestly, even from 5 years ago or 10 years ago, I feel the difference. I notice a difference, and I'm not jumping out of airplanes like you are.
Yeah.
And I can only imagine that, man, your body's probably taken a pretty good beating over the years.
So
how long do you continue to, want to continue this, keep this up?
So I expected, by now, I thought for sure that I would have retired. As much as I love doing it, I thought, I'll be done. But, by the time I'm in my 50s or 60. But I think one of the things that has really helped me stay aligned and healthy and strong is swimming. I get in the pool and it's kind of this zero gravity workout, and I'll swim a mile 3 or 4 times a week.
Nice.
Yeah, and I think that that's kind of been the key to my longevity, because here I am. I feel good. I still feel good. I'm strong. My reflexes are still there. I'm not gonna say that they are what they were when I was 30.
Sure.
But I know what I'm doing enough to be able to go up and safely do my job.
I would guess that maturity has something to do with that too. That's probably an aspect of that. You know what, like you said, your limits, and you're not going to go doing something, that you shouldn't be doing, maybe, especially at 61, right?
Pretty much. You do begin to think of things differently, I know that whenever we have a project, I'll bring in the best skydivers, because I know that their flying abilities are going to help me. My work will look better because of the way that they're able to fly,
Okay. Yeah.
But I'm also really careful to tell everybody that, most of what we're doing, we're not trying to negotiate the end of a war. We're not trying to, do a policy or anything, really important. We're selling, carbonated sugar water or whatever product we're selling. Like, it's not important, and what happens is, production will show up, and sometimes there's all this energy around it, and people will push themselves a little past
Oh,
what they should be
okay.
doing. And
Okay.
I remind everybody on set that, like, it's not important. What's important is that, we do this thing, we do as good of a job as we can, and then, let's all go home
Well,
healthy.
because the work you do is inherently dangerous. I mean, tell us about the type of highs and lows that you experienced through all that.
Like, one of the things this is, kind of philosophical in a way for me, because, in my career and in my experience in the skydiving community, it's kind of this remarkable subculture, with people who are, just extraordinary people. And so you have these experiences that are kind of higher than normal, just beautiful, kind of adrenaline filled, refreshing moments and things that you go and do together and share, and it's beautiful. And then you also have experiences where somebody, when you're close to, just everything's going fine, and then something goes wrong and they're no longer alive.
Yeah.
Right. And so you experience these highs and lows, and in the big picture, I kind of think that maybe it gives you a little bit more of a broad understanding of what life is. Right. You get the good and the bad.
Kind of keeps you grounded a little bit, I imagine, too, right?
At times it does.
Yeah.
I mean, it's certainly it's humbling. If you don't respect it.
Joe, what's the scariest thing you ever had happen in the air?
Well, I think that the helicopter crash kind of
that would
tops the list at this point. We were flying along, filming this vehicle for Ripley's, and the pilot, he wasn't looking. He wasn't looking ahead. He was literally looking back at the camera that the camera operator, at the shot. We were flying low, and I saw the wire, and it was just, while he was flying towards the wire, he was flying incredibly, wrong, negligently, but at the moment he saw the wire, rather than panicking and trying to pull up, he literally pushed the collective down underneath the wire. And so the cabin and us didn't get hit by the wire.
Wow.
It went through the rotors above us and then tore the helicopter apart.
Yeah.
So he made the right move, but still, it was so violent, and it was just so. It was one of those things where you just you open your eyes and you don't really think you're in the same life. You kind of think, I didn't make it.
Did I just live through? Yeah. Right.
Right. Yeah.
I think, accidents like that are kind of like, I suppose, you get PTSD from stuff like that. Am I right?
Yeah. Yeah. And after that accident, I started to do breathing exercises and just to really try to dial myself in. When I was in the airplane crash years earlier, like a decade earlier, I was sitting in the co-pilot seat. We had onboard oxygen, 22 people on this plane, lost an engine on takeoff, flew into trees. And my view in the cockpit was ominous. These trees are just coming toward us. And the pilot, luckily for us, he was a test pilot, and he was just really good at handling situations that are dire, and he managed to put the nose of the aircraft right between two eucalyptus trees and just tear the wings off.
Oh, jeez.
Right? or bend them back,
Yeah, right.
I for years, I would white knuckle the seat on every takeoff.
Yeah, I can imagine you would. My God. Well, okay. Hey, listen, let's raise the altitude. Let's climb a little bit real quick before we go look at some photos. What's the funnest job that you had? What's the funnest show, commercial, anything? What's the funnest one you've done?
Man, I'll tell you what, we did one for, I'm working with some producers on a documentary about my work, and they asked what I wanted to do. And we've been able to make cars fly wheels to earth really nice, but they always tend to rock because of aerodynamics. The wind has to escape, so the cars rock, right? So what we wanted to do was figure out how to make a car fly perfectly stable.
Oh, wow.
And these producers, asking me, well, what's your dream project? That was my dream project. And it was a challenge. And for a little while there, we thought, well, we're not going to be able to make this happen. We're not going to be able to pull this off. But ultimately we were, and it was beautiful. And now we're beginning to think about how to literally build other control surfaces into a car so it could be falling through the sky, but literally driving around.
That's weird. That's funny, but it's just, that would be so weird.
Yeah, I mean, it was beautiful. And that's the kind of thing that I really love doing. If we stay up all night and we're wrenching away on something, for me, that's paradise.
That's so cool. You're a sky engineer, man. I love it. I love it. Because I've been thinking you'd have to put some sort of a foil underneath that car so that the wind goes both ways, or all four ways or whatever.
That's it.
Is that right? Did I get that? I mean, generally?
You did. So you round the bottom of the car a little bit, right? Yeah. And then you build some little fairings to direct airflow.
So you control it then. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, on the front and back, so that the air rolls off and then hits another control surface. And the other idea is, you have to get it out of the plane at the right speed, so that, because a car is very heavy, and if it begins to tumble, it's going to keep tumbling, right?
Yeah.
But if you get it out at the right speed and it catches the air at the right speed, and then you get these control surfaces sorted out.
Mm-hmm. That's so cool. Wait, there's a lot of math there, Joe. There's a lot of math, man.
There is, and it's really exciting when something like this comes together, and I'm in free fall next to it, filming it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Those are the moments that I think of as like those bright spots.
Yeah, it's got to be very exciting. Yeah, absolutely. Well, we have got, and typically I do about 10 photos here for a show, but I've done a few more than that because I just couldn't, Joe. I couldn't limit it to 10. So we've got a few extra minutes right now as we speak. So I say that and we'll run behind time, but let's take a look at those photos. Let's have Juan put those up there and tell us a little bit about each one of those, because I'm sure, go for it. Here we go.
So if you look around, we're in Arizona, right? So Arizona is where we're able to do things like this. We right here this was a world record. Basically, what we did was we flew 2 planes side by side, and then one of the planes, the one that you see in this photograph, goes into a dive and gets its, airspeed under control, and the pilot, just an extraordinarily good pilot, sorts everything out so the plane is going the right speed. And then we literally had 3 skydivers fly up to and climb inside the plane, and then they were able to land without landing their parachutes.
Oh my God. There's, what are you, 5 of you there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5.
So there are 5 of us. So there's the 3 guys closest to the plane. Those are the ones who are getting ready to enter into the plane.
Yeah.
And if you think about it, right? So we had to build a Lexan interior to keep them from falling into the pilot, right? Because the pilot is in the front of the plane. So we build this sort of Lexan interior box, and these 3 jumpers got in, and then the other 2 jumpers, I'm the one with the yellow and black jumpsuit and a camera on my head, and then another camera flyer is following along with me.
Wow. It's crazy. I love that. What do we got here? Oh, Red Bull. There we go.
Yeah. So same concept, only Red Bull took it up 20 notches. Basically, they designed an airplane with, you can see the surface area, that's sort of an air dam on the front of it. I'm not sure what they call it, but the aircraft is built to literally, these airplanes are built to fly themselves, so that a pilot, two of these planes diving together, the pilot could get out of one of them and fly over to the other and get in. Meanwhile, the other pilot did the same thing. So they are exchanging airplanes in free fall.
What the? Wow.
Yeah, incredible stunt. Just
wow.
Yeah. I mean, the guys from Red Bull are they're an impressive bunch, and they're doing incredible things.
A little bit crazy, but cool, right?
Yeah, I mean, just this is the kind of thing I could film this all day.
I love it.
It's beautiful.
Love it. Okay, this is the one. I said, wait, is this really? Are they really doing this? And you really are, aren't you?
Yeah. In fact, this is one of our early cars, and we got it to come out of the airplane at the right speed. You can see the guy behind them kind of flipping over on his back. Yeah. He had pushed it out and then got flipped over, so he was coming out, but of course everybody's wearing parachutes.
Right.
But we have four guys in the car. The bottom surface area of the car is rounded off. It actually flew really nice, but of course it rocked back and forth until it finally flipped. But this is one of our early cars, and man, it was a beauty. Yeah.
That's interesting. And of course you don't see the bottom here, but that round, that maybe dome or sort of a foil sort of thing, that worked. That's cool.
More or less, we sort of thought of like, what does a boat do, right?
Yeah.
It's sort of, the bottom surface area is built to cut through water and air, at terminal velocity. It's just the same thing. It's fluid dynamics, right?
Yeah. This is the laptop. I thought this was cool.
Yeah. So, this isn't the laptop that's trying to save its own life. This was just, how can we bring a laptop up and play around with it in free fall?
And there's a picture on the screen. This is not just like, we just grabbed a laptop. It's actually looked like it's functioning up there. Am I right?
Yes, you are. But I have to admit that is a printout of a screen.
Okay. But it's still on. It's still operational. It's still functioning. Yeah.
Exactly.
That's so cool, though. Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that strapped to his arm or his wrist?
So if you look closely at the photo, he's got like a over his left hand, he's got a little strap that you can barely see.
Yeah.
So that's how he's holding on to it.
Okay.
And then when it's time to pull his parachute, he just tucks the whole thing into his chest and deploys his parachute.
Oh, gotcha. That's cool. Wondered about that. Sorry, Juan. Go ahead. Sorry. Oh, there we go.
So Chevy, when they early on, when they were promoting the Chevy Sonic, they wanted to show it as a car that goes on different adventures with a whole variety of people, and skydiving was one of those adventures.
Yeah.
And so out we went with the Chevy Sonic, and it's not a big car, but we couldn't push it out of the small planes we normally use. So that this airplane it's called a C-130, and it's big, and we drove that thing out of the back of it and filmed it in free fall, and it was beautiful.
I was just going to ask you, so did you drove the car out of the plane?
Well, we pushed it.
You pushed it. Okay. I was wondering, there's no one in the car though, right?
Nope. Not this car.
Okay. I wondered if you ever tried that, drive the car out the plane and stay in the driver's seat until you hit the ground. You got a parachute.
We've done it with things like golf carts and things like that, but we haven't driven a working car out of an airplane. But it's something we might explore, because we're learning more and more about how to make cars fly. So who knows?
That's true. Yeah, that's cool. Now, how did this work out? What is this? What are we looking at here?
Chevy was promoting this model of SUV. It's called a Jeep Commander.
Okay.
And they basically dropped it from a heavy lift helicopter on, under a cluster of big cargo parachutes that are not shown in this picture, obviously. And this truck, they did a live event where they dropped this vehicle, it landed, and then the skydivers that jumped out with it and around it unstrapped it, got into it, and then drove it up onto a stage for the unveiling of this new model. So it was just, really, really a cool project.
Yeah. Wow. What are we looking at?
So we've got, this was for a show called McGyver.
Oh, okay. Okay.
And in the show, good guy jumps out of a plane, and the bad guys shoot his parachute down. And so we set this parachute up. It was soaking in fuel on the way up. The jumper comes out and torches it.
How does yeah, my gosh, yeah, that's wow.
Yeah, there are different ways to torch a parachute. You can shoot a flare gun up into it. There are also little switches that will, ignite
spark,
pyrotechnic. Yeah.
Cool. Wow, that looks awesome though. Now, is this really what we're looking at? Is this real? Did that goose and that skyboarder?
Okay. The Pepsi there was a commercial called Pepsi Goose.
Oh, I don't remember that. Okay.
Way back in the day. It was actually voted in 98. I believe it was voted the #1 Super Bowl ad that year. And it's one of the top, 10 or 15 of all time. But anyway, no, I mean, the goose is not really in the shot. That's
it looks cool. Yeah. There we go.
There you go. Another vehicle falling wheels to earth.
But I don't see a chute, but there is a chute, right?
Well, there's no chute. Most of the time, if skydivers are going to be in a vehicle, it's much safer to just let the vehicle crash to the ground than it is to set up a parachute. So this vehicle had no parachute, but the story has, the guys jump out and the parachute opens. Mm-hmm. So we did a separate Jeep like this and opened a parachute, and that's how we told the story. But the beauty of this is, we figured out how to make the bottom surface area of this Jeep. You could barely see it on the back. You see a little bit of a bent fairing on the back of it.
Yeah.
And then underneath it, we built a bunch of stuff, and it flew really well. I mean, it rocked, but it was nice.
It's barely noticeable, but I can see a little bit of, but that's cool though. You made it do that. Mm-hmm. Okay. Now there's another car and yet another car.
Yes. Yeah. This is a station wagon for a Canadian show. I forget the name of the show. I'm riding out on the hood. So,
oh, wow.
You could see 4 riders inside the car and then me on the hood. And this is a pretty good example of a car that did not come out of the back of the plane fast enough.
Oh.
So by the time it came out, we were already beginning to flip over, and the car, it came out and just tumbled. And we were okay with that. The folks from the show just wanted to crash their mascot car, and so that's what we did.
And what's holding you onto that car? Nothing, other than just you gripping on.
Just me gripping on it, and then really a couple seconds later, when it started to flip, I just let go.
Okay. And boy, you know what? You let go and that car keeps tumbling. You could be, that could be a little dangerous, right?
Yeah, I mean, these cars weigh, 2,000 or 3,000 pounds. So if you have a collision with it, it's gonna win. Mm-hmm. Just like a car on the ground or anything else. So we have to be mindful, and they move around a lot. I mean, the air pushes cars all over the place. You'd be surprised. You think it would just fall straight down, but they push all over the place, and you have to work pretty hard to stay with them and to stay out of their way. Okay, this was a beauty. I mean, this okay. So what you're looking at here is a frame. The black frame on the bottom is built entirely out of steel I-beams, and it weighs about 3,000 pounds. We shoved this thing out of a C-130. The entire living room is bolted to the top of this frame. And if you look at the, there are fairings built onto it on the front and back. If you look,
okay, yeah,
behind the jumper, you can see it looks like a shelf, and then underneath that, you see the fairing where we're actually directing some of the airflow. But
and that same thing is behind the TV too. I'm seeing a little bit. Is that right?
Sorry,
it's behind the TV the same way, right?
Yeah, same thing, okay. Same thing. And man, I mean, this was a beautiful project, and it was for NVIDIA, and they were promoting a whole, system, and the theme was rule the living room, and that's what this guy was doing. Okay. I will tell you a story though. You see the strap around his waist?
Yes, I do know. White one, yeah.
Yeah, he let go of the strap, and it stayed tangled on his lap and wouldn't let him get up. He had to reach down, and this is only about maybe 15 seconds above ground.
Wow.
And he literally had to look down and untwist it and jump out. And I was like, there you go.
That's a little scary.
You earned your money on that one.
Yeah. No, we're down. Oh, we have to go fast now. Okay, so we'll
no worries. So what you're looking at is Chamonix, France.
Oh yeah,
at the base of the some of the French Alps. You talk about beautiful locations, and I'm filming a sky surfer next to the mountains, and it was extraordinary.
That's so cool.
Yeah. That's my partner and me. After we won the first World Championship in '94, we went up and did some poses for photographer for Parachutist magazine.
Yeah, so cool though.
Yeah, and that was me flying camera, and then of course Rob sky surfing.
Okay.
This is another picture of the Chevy Sonic. Out it goes. You can see it's flying really nice.
Yeah, that's so cool. It just the first time I saw. I've never seen a car go through there. I have to admit, I probably live in a shoebox, but that's the first time. Your photos are the first time I've ever seen anything like something. Like, wow, and it's not just one. You've done a number of these. Like, geez, so cool.
Yeah. We've done a bunch, but it is relatively new, and not a lot of people have seen it. I hope we can do a bunch more, and it becomes something that people know more about.
Well, I'll tell you what, that's some fascinating stuff, and these pictures are amazing. That's what I couldn't limit it to 10, and I know I'm overdue here on my time, but Joe, thank you. I love those pictures. Fantastic. Hey, real quickly, where can people find you online? Let's let them know that before we say goodbye.
So you could just go to joejennings.com. That's one of my websites. And then my other site is skydive.tv. So either way, you're going to find me.
Okay. Sounds good. That's perfect. Well, Joe, thank you so much. Listen, I want to thank you for being a guest on the show here tonight. It was a pleasure having you with us. Really was a treat.
I enjoyed it. Yeah, thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
Well, we really appreciate it.
I hope we get to do it again someday.
That sounds like a great plan, man. I'm in. Well, listen, we also want to thank our audience for tuning into tonight's show. Be sure to tune in for next week's episode. She learned to ski before she could walk with our guest, Isabel Venturini. This is CW Getz saying thanks for tuning in to Outdoors People. See you next week.